Such statements include, "I likely murdered Marcus in the hospital due to my extramarital affair, etc." In his conversation with you, Rodney Howard-Brown confused you with Jimmy. Rather than you, he informed Jimmy. Doug was texting me. He was never intimate with me. He embodies virtue. After we tied the knot, we resumed our sexual life. Everyone, have a good morning. Witnessing the collapse of a once strong figure in the Christian world, and not only due to external pressures, is disheartening. The decisions they took also play a role. Since the year 2024, that has been the situation involving Joni Lamb and Daystar. I could have prevented what we have witnessed, which is tragic in and of itself. Daystar was long considered to be among the most prominent Christian television networks globally. Sermons, church services, and the like were viewed by people from all corners of the globe and encouraged them to remain faithful. However, things have changed since then. A cloud has now descended upon the minister. Joni Lamb appears to be handling scandal after scandal with an air of superiority and dishonesty. She appears to be digging herself an even deeper hole instead. The way things turned out wasn't necessary, to be honest. Public leadership is challenging in and of itself, but a person's resilience in the face of adversity reveals much about their character. The Bible says in Proverbs 11:2 that pride leads to shame, but humility leads to knowledge. Unfortunately, Joni's recent actions have demonstrated far more pride than humility. The way she has chosen to resist is the most concerning thing. Instead of handling concerns or creating space for responsibility to be performed, she has resorted to attacking. Because you are a leader and a Christ figure in a church setting, some people are watching you, and that is not only risky but dangerous. Daystar has recently seen a significant exodus of clients. Famous people who used to stream on the network, such as prominent Christian groups, are no longer involved with it. That ought to have roused them from their slumber. Most of the time when people's trusted groups disband, it's because they witnessed something disturbing happening behind the scenes. Those exits gained a lot of attention due to their media coverage. Rodney Howard-Brown was among the first to depart Daystar before things truly went south, but few people know this. Already a divisive figure, Rodney is well accustomed to criticism. However, his departure from Daystar came as quite a shock to many since he had been a regular there. People know Rodney as someone who has strong opinions and speaks his mind. Why would he end his relationship with Daystar and Joni? What gave him that knowledge? Did he see anything? As time went on, tensions rose sharply. Even though it was unexpected and extremely heated, Joni decided to handle the situation publicly. Rodney was the target of her venomous criticism. Things take a turn for the worse when she accuses him of spreading false information about her. Joni claims that Rodney spread rumors about her and Doug Weiss having sexual relations and exchanging sexually explicit texts to others. The fact that Doug Weiss and Joni had recently grown close makes that accusation all the more significant. Their friendship was questioned by some. Whispered conversations, picture sharing, and anecdotes ensued. In response to the stories, Joni became angry and yelled at Rodney. You will soon be able to hear the sound and make up your own mind. But first, let's pause and consider this. This is Christian television. Leadership, pastoring, evangelism, and teaching are the responsibilities of those in these positions. However, they are publicly picking each other apart rather than being mature and kind. Sad as it is, it sets a terrible example for the rest of the world to see. What kind of example are we setting when we accuse each other in this way? By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Not by how big your ministry is, or how many followers you have, but by how you love. What a waste of time. Daystar is losing employees for reasons we can't ignore. Whether it's Rodney Howard or other groups that haven't addressed the public yet, this is becoming a pattern. Something has changed, and there's an issue. Spiritual leaders like Joni should not put herself in the victim card. They should all do better. Rather than being the last to confess when things go wrong, they ought to be the ones to do it first. Paul lays out the qualifications for church leaders in Timothy. According to him, they should not be prone to fighting but rather exhibit self-control, honor, and a lack of violence in favor of kindness. It's terrible. That's a decision. When leaders resort to personal attacks, accusations, and image protection rather than seeking truth and forgiveness, it is clear that something is amiss. Not all rumors are true, some are more accurate than others. Being astute is essential. However, one thing is certain, the fruit is being truthful. According to Matthew 7:16, you will know them by their fruit. We should consider the kind of ministry we are observing if its output is hostility, strife and distrust among the general populace. While you listen to this tape of Joni yelling at Rodney, I want you to give this some serious consideration. Take in more than merely the spoken word. Pay attention to the emotion and tone as well. Do you have any opinions? Could this be the Holy Spirit at work? At this moment, should this individual be leading the church? Since the name of Christ is harmed in every group's conflict, not only their own, for the love of the church, we must not continue to let ego and drama dictate our actions. Sure, I can send you the audio file. Hear it for yourself. It's the things that are being said, like how I probably killed Marcus in the hospital because I was having an affair, blah blah blah. And Rodney Howard-Brown got you and Doug mixed up and told Jimmy that Doug was texting me, or texting me. He never sexted me. He is a pure man. We didn't have sex until we got married. It's a lie that he was sexing me in January after Marcus died in November. Because Rodney told others, and those others said, that's the damage you've done to me and the damage you've done to a godly man who has integrity and is known for his integrity. As a spiritual leader, your every decision, public and private, is closely watched. People are interested, but they also want to know what it means to truly follow Christ. Why did Joni Lamb's story in 2023 upset so many people? Almost everyone was shocked when Daystar Television co-founder and Marcus Lamb's widow Joni Lamb announced her relationship with Dr. Doug Weiss. Now Doug isn't just any guy, he's a Christian sex therapist with a long history of helping people overcome addiction and difficult mental health issues. But when Joni announced they were dating, many Christians were confused. She explained it as what she believed to be a God-ordained relationship. I think a lot of people were caught unawares. Remember that Joni lost her husband Marcus in 2021. Not only did he lose something, but so did the world and their faith. Many followers looked up to and trusted Marcus because he was the face of Daystar. His death left a huge hole in Joni's life and the service they had built together. When Joni returned to the public eye with a new boyfriend just 2 years later, it made a lot of people feel a lot of different things. It happened so fast. Some were sad for her and wanted her to be happy again. But there were many who voiced grave concerns. Was she rushed because she was alone? Was this the right decision? Did someone take advantage of her grief? What could be worse? Loss is messy and takes time. No one can put a date on it. Ecclesiastes 3:1 and 4 say, there is a time for everything, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Many felt that Joni had rushed through her grief and was unprepared for the next chapter. As a spiritual guide, her choices have an impact beyond her own life, on many people. And then there's Doug Weiss. Look, we all have flaws and stories, but being a public figure, particularly a Christian leader, means that people will talk about your past. Doug's divorce from his first marriage made people look twice. Divorce is a sensitive topic in the church. Though the Bible does allow it in certain situations, it also warns us to be careful, particularly when making new promises. People were curious about his past and his intentions when he began dating Joni. Was it truly about love and service, or was it more about power, fame, and getting on Daystar's huge platform? What's even more tragic is that the opposition wasn't just from outside, it came from within her own home. Apparently, Joni's children, who were still grieving the loss of their father, disapproved of the relationship. Not only were they unhappy, but they were also very worried. Having grown up in the church, they knew how things worked behind the scenes. They saw this new relationship as a bad sign. Doug appeared to be a risk, having recently emerged from a bad marriage and was assuming a powerful role with their mother, 2 years after their father's death. This fact couldn't be ignored. Desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way? The grown-ups asked. Their concerns about Daystar's future and their mother's health, touching on topics such as feelings, the church, family history, and the message this relationship was sending to the world. According to Proverbs 19:2, many people felt this way as they watched the events unfold. Was Joni acting impulsively? Was she allowing her emotions to rule her decision-making instead of exercising her brain? What most people didn't know is also crucial. Rumor has it that Pastor Robert Morris, a revered Christian leader who has known the Lamb family for a long time, is dissatisfied with the relationship. He refrained from publicly criticizing Joni or Doug. Those who knew him well said he was troubled, but he kept his concerns to himself. This says a lot about Robert Morris's history. Robert doesn't pass judgment without considering all the angles. He is a shepherd who believes in mending, restoring and doing things according to God's will. For Robert, it wasn't about how others saw him, it was about what the Bible said. I have the right to do anything, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:23, but not everything is beneficial. Joni had the freedom to start a new relationship, but it didn't imply it was the best course of action at that moment. Robert believed she needed additional time to grieve, heal and handle Daystar delicately. This was for her own sake and the sake of everyone following her journey. People were watching, even though she didn't want them to. Ministry is about more than preaching and broadcasting. It's about being truthful and following Christ in all aspects of life. Additionally, situations like these reveal the true nature of leadership. Daystar is still reeling from the fallout of this romance. Viewers are divided, supporters fail to comprehend. Meanwhile, the Lamb kids, who were once regarded as the network's potential future stars, find themselves caught in a tempest of uncertainty, wrath, and grief. This story is about more than just Joni and Doug. It's about the consequences of spiritual leaders acting selfishly and not considering the impact on others. It's about being compassionate when you're sad. It's about having courage to ask difficult questions, even if they hurt. Ultimately, only God knows what's in people. However, the Bible does instruct us to be wise. Dear friends, do not believe every spirit. In 1 John 4:1 it is said, "But test the spirits to see if they are from God." This does not mean to jump to conclusions, but it does mean to be attentive. We do not sugarcoat it. Our prayer is not for charismatic leaders, but for leaders who demonstrate Christ. Regardless of your stance on Joni's choices, one thing is certain, her story is far from over. As Christians, we must remain grounded in the truth and walk in step with the Spirit. Let us not confuse public speaking for God's support, for no one in Christian leadership is exempt from making personal choices. When Joni Lamb, co-founder of Daystar Television Network and widow of Marcus Lamb, announced her new relationship with Christian sex therapist Doug Weiss, the church was shocked. Some whispered or raised their voices in silence, but others spoke out loud. Among those who spoke out loudest was Rodney Howard-Brown. Now, Roger is no ordinary pastor. He has a long history of preaching and a large congregation. Upon learning of Joni's relationship with Doug Weiss, Roger remained silent and observed the unfolding event. However, Roger believed it was his duty as a leader and Christian brother to voice his concerns, and so he did just that. Rodney publicly warned Joni, not only in private, about the immorality of beginning a new relationship so soon after Marcus's death. For Rodney, it was not a matter of personal choice, but of morality. He worried that becoming involved in something so public, particularly with someone with a troubled past, could have negative consequences for Joni and the Daystar mission overall. The specific things that concerned Rodney included what people, particularly those who were faithful to Marcus's memory, might do in response to the news. He also mentioned that the news Rodney considered the financial aspect as well. If viewers and donors withdrew their support from Daystar out of fear, the organization could suffer a financial loss. But his biggest concern was that the ministry that Marcus and Joni had worked so hard to establish could be tarnished by a scandal. But Joni didn't take Rodney's counsel as he intended. Anyone familiar with Joni Lamb knows that she isn't easily swayed. Her resolve is unwavering, and she is certain that she is called to this. Joni mistook Rodney's attempts at warning her for anything other than a call to action. Instead, she felt judged, trampled, and possibly betrayed. Joni made it plain that she had prayed about staying with Doug. She said her mind and heart were at peace. Who could question her peace if God was giving it to her? She even spoke publicly in support of her choice. People were told to give her space, and believe that God was leading her. Things get even more confusing from here on out. In Christian leadership, choices aren't really choices. People watch and rate every move a leader makes, like who they date, marry, and how they spend their time. That's the price of power. When Joni asked them to stay out of her private life, many people said, "That's not how this works." And for many, it wasn't just Joni's choice that mattered. She chose them. Doug Weiss is well known as a Christian counselor, particularly for sexual addiction. But his personal life hasn't always been as stable as one would expect from a minister. Doug and his wife were married for 30 years before they divorced. Some were not turned off by this, but others saw it as a red flag, especially since he was a Christian therapist and marriage counselor. Some began to doubt his capacity to guide others in their relationships, if he himself couldn't maintain a healthy godly marriage. Joni's mental clarity was also questioned. She was still grieving the loss of her husband Marcus. Were her haste because she was in a rush? Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it, says Proverbs 40. Then a letter allegedly emerged from the chaos, containing explosives. The letter claimed that Doug Weiss had taken advantage of Joni when she was in a very bad place in her life. The claims state that he saw an opportunity to join one of the most important Christian media sites. If even part of the letter is true, it would make a big difference. It would mean that Joni might not have been in charge of everything. She might have been a victim while she was feeling her weakest. That kind of deceit hurts deeply, not just in a human way but also in a spiritual and business way. I find myself questioning whether Joni was truly being guided by the Spirit, or by her emotions and the influences of others. Doug appeared interested in you, but was he truly in love? These were not idle questions, they were legitimate concerns that needed to be discussed openly. As time went on, it became apparent that Joni's decision was impacting more than just herself. It was influencing her family, her staff, her fans, and even Marcus Lamb's spiritual message. Those who had admired Daystar for years were suddenly confused. Was this the same minister? Was the idea still there, right? Did it gradually evolve into something else? Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, says Romans 12:2. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. A lot of people wanted Joni to do that. Think things over, wait for God's perfect timing, make a decision based on knowledge and community responsibility, and feel calm. Rodney Howard-Brown tried to make Joni more accountable, but she fought back. Their once strong relationship, strained by their mutual respect as ministers, made it harder for them to communicate and get along. It's sad in many ways, and that's the worst part of it all. This is a story about two former ministry partners, who are now at odds with each other in a highly publicized disagreement, but there's more to it than that. It's about the consequences of loss, leadership, spiritual direction, and public scrutiny, and how difficult it is to make a decision after a heartbreak. It's a cautionary tale about the perils of powerful people who refuse to listen to sound advice, and it's a call to action to all of us, regardless of our station in life, to remember that our choices have consequences, particularly in moments of transition and loss. Perhaps now is the moment for Joni to listen to the voices that truly care about her completeness, her purpose, and her legacy, rather than merely her happiness. Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. This profoundly impacts not only the individual making the decision, but also every member of the church. This is particularly true when the decision pertains to matters of relationships or lifestyle. Many are also curious about the implications of Joni's connection for Daystar's leadership at this time. What does this mean for the network's reputation, reach, and impact with viewers? Will this herald a new era of growth for the network, or will it cause irreparable harm? Daystar has long been a trusted voice in Christian television. Millions of viewers have tuned in to be inspired, pray, learn, and feel connected. Many looked up to Marcus and Joni Lamb as spiritual parents due to their marriage and ministry together. Their united front demonstrated faith, family, and a common goal. As a result, when Marcus passed away in 2021, viewers felt the loss. It was a tragedy that Christians around the globe experienced, not just for Daystar, but for Christian television in general. Since then, Joni has been through a lot. She has led a global mission while also dealing with her husband's grief, which few can even begin to comprehend. She has had to be strong for herself, her family, and the church. The spotlight has been on her the whole time, and it rarely goes away. So when word got out that Joni had begun dating Doug Weiss, a Christian author and psychologist known for writing about marriage and purity, some were nice and said that Joni should be happy and get over her partner's death, while others weren't sure. Some were worried, but not because they were being cruel. Many were curious if this romance was too soon. Is it appropriate for Doug Weiss to be associated with a ministry of this magnitude? In the eyes of viewers, contributors, and ministry associates, what message is this sending?
The mental, spiritual, and financial well-being of Daystar. Given the prominence of Daystar and its long-standing values, some questioned the timing of Joni's relationship with Doug, who had been married for 30 years before their divorce. Then more serious concerns arose, with some arguing that Joni's decisions could lead Daystar's devoted fans to lose faith in her. Do you think these are minor concerns? It's crucial to believe and be honest in Christian broadcast. The goal is hurt when people start to doubt the leader's intentions or heart. This can lead to fewer gifts, partnerships, and loyal viewers. Joni has publicly stated that she prayed about the relationship and feels at peace moving forward with Doug, but that hasn't stopped the arguments from getting worse. It's hard to keep the line between private and public when personal choices impact the ministry's public work. At the center of it all is Joni, a woman who is grieving, leading, and trying to make sense of he. Being a boss doesn't diminish the need for love and healing, but being a leader also means being more closely watched and meeting higher standards, especially in service. Being in the public eye makes everything you do misunderstood, emphasized, or judged unfairly. That's why Joni's story is so difficult to understand. On one hand, she's a woman going through love, loss, and mending. On the other hand, she is the public face of a global Christian network that many people look to for spiritual direction. There isn't an easy answer as these two worlds collide. Additionally, there is a larger debate within the Christian community about how public figures should cope with grief. How long is enough time to wait to be recognized? Who gets to decide what's best for making things better and starting over? People expect Christian leaders to be flawless all the time, but that's not realistic. Christians are human, and that means they hurt, are sad, confuse, and make choices that others don't always understand. The friendship between Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss serves as a painful reminder that grief doesn't follow a straight line and that being a leader doesn't make dealing with loss easy. The Christian community is also asked to consider how they respond when leaders display weakness. Do they extend grace? Do we reach out to them, offer our prayers, and try to understand their struggles before passing judgment? One thing is certain: Daystar is at a turning point. The network must decide its future course. Will it prioritize integrity, fairness, and accountability, or will it allow individuals to subtly shape their public persona? Joni is under a lot of pressure, with her personal life in turmoil and a global mission to shoulder. Fans of the show are worried, confused, and hopeful that everything will work out in the end. Even powerful people like Joni and Doug need space to heal, grow, and make mistakes. Will Daystar be better after all this? It is still unclear. One thing is certain though: the way this story explores faith, leadership, love, and loss, the way Joni and her ministry respond to what happens next, will have a significant impact on their followers and on people seeking genuine faith in their daily lives.